Well, another beautiful day. Got two more of them coming, or one more coming anyway. Well, I got all my 2x finished up. I got them all edged, all the deck boards and all the ceiling boards edged. And that was the reason for getting the table saw out and getting it set up. So technically I could put the table saw away now, and then I could get the shaper out and start setting it up to run the tongue and groove on the ceiling boards. But I got one other thing that I want to do before I do that. Built this cabin, I don't know, it's been over 20 years ago now, as a temporary place to live while we were working on the house. And of course, temporary has been a lot more permanent than I would have imagined. A nice tight little cabin, and it's relatively comfortable. There's not a whole lot of room in it, but I've been procrastinating or holding off doing any finish work on the outside of the cabin because I wanted to concentrate everything on working on the house. And of course that didn't exactly go the way I wanted to because other things came up. I had to rebuild the airplane and stuff, so the house has been backseat a bunch of times, although that's what I'm working on now, or trying to work on now. Well, I'd cut lap siding for around the house, the first floor of the house there on the sawmill. That's one of the things I cut on the sawmill when I got it, is that, and it's yellow cedar lap siding, 8 inches, and I think I've got a 6-inch reveal on it or something like that. Well, eventually I cut a bunch of 1x's and stuck up there on the side walls. But again, I didn't finish that because I wanted to concentrate on other things that came up that took priority. Well, the front of the house just stayed tar paper, and that has kind of got dilapidated over the last couple of years. The wind started tearing it up, and of course it's got weathered and whatnot. It looks like hell, but even more important than looking like hell is that it exposes the gaps in the plywood sheeting and stuff on the house, which kind of decreases the efficiency of the fiberglass insulation in the walls. So we need to renew that tar paper, and rather than just putting fresh tar paper up there and leave it exposed to the elements, I thought I'd go ahead and try to finish that out with a board and batten. And I've got shingles I've cut years ago that I got out and got all cleaned up and ready to put on. I was originally just going to shingle that front of the house, but I don't have enough shingles to do that, so we're just cutting some more boards and battens to put up there. I'll take down the boards. Those are boards, some of the first ones my wife ever painted that were on one of the buildings downtown they were going to throw away, so that rose mauling, and so she grabbed those and put them up there on the house. So I'll take those down and put new tar paper or new house wrap of some kind up there to keep the air from flowing through there. See what I can do about dolling up that front of that house a little bit, getting it straightened up so that it looks a little better, but so that the air don't infiltrate through it. Too much sun here, not going to be able to see very well. Well, we've got battens there that I cut years ago that were all painted, that have been sticking up in the woodshed, and I've got enough cut up to right size to do the sides of the cabin, but I need some more for the front. Well, the other thing that I've done is I went up and cut these 1x12s, and those were flitches. I dug those out of the wood drying rack, cut those up to 33 inches. My finish size is going to be 31 inches on those. Set them up to run through the table saw and make clean edges on them. Like I said, I'm going to need some more battens, so I've gone up and cut off some more of these flitches. You see that one there, we've got a clean edge on it, a sawn edge on it, but these other ones over here have raw edges on them, bark edges on them. So I need to trim those down, get them set up for making nice pretty boards out of them. So this one I don't need to do anything to. I've already got one edge on that, but these other ones here, I don't have a clean edge on those. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a clean edge on them. Now this is just a scrap piece, but it has a clean edge on it. And set up my table saw fence so that I can rip this board down and make a nice clean edge on it. Oh, anyway, I'll just keep doing that. I got several more of these boards to do to edge like that. And then once I get them edged, we'll set up the fence to cut the finished size. All right, now I got these all trimmed up on one edge. Got the saw set up to rip them down into the right width. Oh, now I can just go through and rip them all through there. Don't have to do any more adjustments. Which gives me what I need. See, this one just has too much weight on it. It'd be all right if it was going up like this to the outside of the board, or outside of the face, but then that face would show. If it goes like this, then you got this side here that's a dirt catcher and stuff. Anyway, that gives me enough of those sticks. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the table saw to cross cut those all down to their final length, to the 31 inches that I want them. All those boards, I just rough cut them to 33 inches. I didn't have any way of making a nice clean square cut on them or anything, so I just kind of roughed them off at 33. I want them 31 inches. I've got the table saw set up now. I've got the fence set up at 32 inches and pulled back so it's back behind the saw blade, and I've got a miter gauge in there. So I'll put all those boards on the miter gauge and run them through and cross cut them down to 32 inches. Then I'll reset the saw to 31 inches and cut them to on the other end, so that way I'll have both ends will be square with the sides.
You gonna use this right now?
Huh?
You gonna use this right now?
Nope, I'm all done with this. All done. Those are all trimmed up. The battens I've got laying out in the sun here. The boards we drug out of the drying shed yesterday and cut them up and brought them over here and started trimming them up, and then they were in the hanger all night. But the rest of the boards that I cut the battens out of, they had set outside and got dew on them, so they're a little damp. So I'll let them sit out here in the sunshine for a little while and get dried out, get painted. Judy's grabbing those boards almost before I got them off the saw. Got them down here and getting them painted, getting the stain on them. So she get those painted up. Take a couple days for them to, or a day for them or more for them to dry out enough to use to put up on the wall. Well, I guess if I'm going to do this on the house, or the cabin, I might as well go all the way on it. But I got to doing some measurement there for the soffits and returns up there, and I decided I'd go ahead and do those where it overhangs out over the cabin. Close in the soffits, I guess. I got a spruce and a yellow cedar 1x over there that I just cut to 5.5. I just ripped down to 5.5. And that'll get nailed up there on the wall. And we've got a false rafter out on the end that's 5.5. I can cut trim boards to go up in there to close that in. And then the soffits too. So I've got 1x6 red cedar that I cut a couple years ago. I just run 4 pieces through the jointer. I'll run some more of them through the jointer, and then I'm going to run them one pass, or on one side through the planer, and then I'll edge them on the table saw Well, anyway, I've got 4 of them done, and I've got a few more there to do. Well, those are some nice pretty red cedar boards now. Got a pretty good pile of shavings there for just a half dozen or a dozen boards. There we go. There's a western red cedar. Well, I tried a little bit of that stain on this red cedar. This is western red cedar, not like the Tennessee red cedar or eastern red cedar, aromatic red cedar. So I tried a little bit of the stain on there that's a natural, and it is bringing out the red cedar color just beautiful on there. I put some on that stick there. That's one of the sticks that I cut for the battens on the house. It wouldn't make a batten. I've kind of been using it for a push stick. Anyway, that's yellow cedar, and you can see the contrast there. Maybe let's see if it shows up or not, but the contrast there between that color, it brings out that yellow color in the yellow cedar. It's bringing out the red color out of the red cedar, so that's going to look really nice. I'm happy with that. Yeah, the last stain that my wife got that she used, it just made everything dark. Made the yellow cedar dark and the red cedar even darker, but this stuff is bringing out the natural color in both these woods, so I'm happy with that. If it holds up, then it's going to be really nice. So anyway, I got to clean my mess up here now. The sun will be going down here in a few minutes, so get the shavings cleaned up from the planer, the sawdust cleaned up from the table saw. I'll get the planer shavings and jointer shavings cleaned up, and then I'll get everything covered up and put away for the night. What we were supposed to have today and most of tomorrow is nice weather again, but it's starting to cloud up already, so I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Not sure exactly what I'm going to do now. I got that red cedar out and I've got it planed down, and I just went over it with a coat of that Cabot Australian timber oil, and it looks pretty nice. Well, that's the stuff that's going up on the cabin on the eaves and stuff there on the soffits. That stuff looks pretty. I've got some more red cedar up there in another pile. I'm just debating whether to go dig it out. So there's a little piece of yellow cedar right there in the front, and it brings out the yellow in that, and it brings out the red in the red cedar. So that looks really nice. So that's got to set up now before I do anything with those boards. We've been doing some of the floorboard for the porch project up there. We've got some of those spread out and been doing a few of those at a time, but I'm running out of sawhorses. I don't have enough room to spread them all out. So I'll let these sit now and set up, then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. Well, I got up there on the face of that cabin, and I took those panels off, my wife's rose mulling panels she had on there, and I cleaned that tar paper up a little bit so it didn't look quite so bad, and we just kept going on it. I got the tar paper cleaned up, all the old nails and stuff and staples cleaned up there, and then I was going to make some flashing to go there by that trim board that goes around there, that green one. Well, I got to looking, I didn't have any galvanized flashing, so we run to town to get some flashing, and I happened to stop at the lumber yard, see if they had any Z-strip, and they had a couple of pieces of Z-strip there, so that was easier than trying to make flashing. So I put that up, and I decided to go ahead and put the underlayment up, and I decided to go ahead and start putting those boards up. They were still wet. Judy just finished painting one side that she didn't get yesterday, but I went ahead and put them up anyway. Well, that's a lot better than it was. We need to get the battens painted up, and I can get those nailed up there. And then I've got a couple of boards here that I can put up in the cornice on the bulkhead there on the end wall to nail boards to finish out that cornice. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use these red cedar boards that I've got. We got those all stained up. They look really pretty. I'm not sure whether I'm going to cut those up and use them for that cornice or whether I'm going to use them for the soffits. I got more red cedar up there, but it's buried underneath the pile, and I need to get the bobcat up there to get it out, which we can't do till we get those 2x6s moved out of the way. But anyway, that's enough for one day. I'm going to have to build scaffolding to get up high enough to do the rest of that up there. I got the ladders up and a scaffold plank between the ladders and was able to get up there and put that vapor barrier up, but that's about as high as I can get on that setup, so I have to make some kind of scaffolding to get up there to do the rest of it. But anyway, that's a start. It already looks better than it did.